Hey guys, so I have a couple things to share before I get into this video. One, it's my birthday. Two, I finished watching Stranger Things and I now completely understand the hype about this show. And I don't know when season 2 even starts, but I'm already just like super excited for it. Stranger Things is just amazing. If you haven't watched Stranger Things on Netflix, please do so. It's an incredible show. I think I had a third thing that I was gonna say, but now I forget. And my third thing on a totally random sidebar here, I am trying out Estee Lauder's Double Wear Foundation today, and it's really amazing so far, so just had to throw it in there. I watch all the beauty gurus on YouTube, so it's fun to actually try out a product that works for them, that's working for me. Today I'm going to be doing a review and then a discussion for One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I finished this book earlier this month and I really liked it. So for the non-spoilery part of this review, I'll just say I gave it 4 stars. I thought it was really well written. It had me engaged the entire time reading the book. And as a brief synopsis, there's a main character, Emma Blair. She marries her high school sweetheart. They move to California just to travel a lot and be spontaneous with their lives because she's grown up in a small town. Her family owns a bookstore, nothing she ever wanted to be a part of. So she loves her life with her husband, living in California, traveling around the world. It's just perfect. One day her husband leaves for an assignment and as helicopter goes down, his body is never found and he is presumed dead. If that sounds like I'm giving away a lot, trust me, this is something you'll read about as soon as you open the book in the first few pages. It's not a spoiler. And flash forward a few years later, Emma has moved on from her husband. She has found love again and she has found love. She is actually engaged to be married and she is happy again. And so this book took you on an emotional roller coaster, as you can expect. It does have Pearl Harbor vibes if you're kind of feeling like it's similar to that. It actually kind of is, but I really did enjoy this book. I won't say that this book was predictable. I think what I thought would happen did happen, but the way it took me there, I wasn't necessarily expecting, if that makes any sense. So for that, I still think it was a really enjoyable read. I wasn't predicting everything that occurred in this book. There were a lot of times I just felt the pain Emma was going through so acutely, and it was so strong and so powerful, especially after she first loses her husband. My heart broke in half as well. Just reading about her grieving process was really hard to do. I love how it delves into family issues, her kind of coming to terms with them, and just how her relationship changes from when she was a child with her older sister to as she grows up and how she loses her husband and how her relationship with her sister changes. I just think that was done so well. I love how Emma changes in this book. She does change a lot from the girl she was when she married her husband to the girl she is a few years later when she is engaged to another man, and I loved seeing that transformation. It's totally plausible, it makes sense, and it also is just wonderful how in the grief she could rise above it and become more of herself. I can't say anything more because it would be spoilery, and so please go read this book if you haven't yet done so, and then you can come back and we can talk about all the spoilers and everything. I don't want you to be spoiled, so please click away if you haven't yet read this book. Alright, so if you're still watching, that means you read it or you just don't care about being spoiled. I absolutely love Sam. I knew from the start when we saw her in high school and Sam was such a good friend that he was gonna be the guy that she was engaged to in the end. There was just something so wholesome and pure and wonderful, and the way that he loved Emma in the beginning, just I knew he was gonna be the real winner in the end, and so I loved Sam. I thought he was just so sweet and endearing, and then we get to see him fall in love with Emma years and years down the road, which is just so beautiful, and how they could find each other after she's been through all that pain. When Emma went to see her husband at the airport, I did not want her to go. I was such a fan of Sam at that point that I couldn't stand the thought of her leaving Sam, and I knew of course she needed to see her husband and she needed to see what would happen, but I was just thinking, no, Emma, you know the answer is Sam. Like, you know it in your heart, you know it's Sam. Don't pretend. But of course she has to see her husband again. She has to give him that respect, and honestly she was married to the man and she loved him for so long that of course she owed it to herself and to him to see him again and to try to see if things would work out between them. But Sam really is the bravest character in this book, the way that he just let Emma go. As for her husband, I want to know more about his experience on the island that he was on for years. I just think there's a lot under the skin, and Emma starts cracking into it at the end of the book, which I was so happy that she did, because all we see is just this guy who's happy to see Emma, who wants to start a life with her again, but we don't really see the trauma that he's been through. And obviously there is a lot. Like when they're in the shower and he describes later that he was just imagining like, oh, we need to hoard this water, we need to get some buckets. Like he's still very much not okay from what he's gone through. I really truly felt bad for the guy. I mean, he the whole time was just thinking he had to get home to Emma, the woman he loves, his wife, and then he comes home and she's engaged to someone else. I mean, obviously I feel so bad for him, but I just wanted Emma to be with Sam anyway. I think if you read this, you probably picked up on this as well, that Emma, before her husband left, the final time she saw him, she in her heart was already ready to kind of make a shift in her life. She was all ready for some change and a little more stability, because she mentions that she wishes her husband didn't have to go away for that little trip. She wishes that he would have stayed home, and then you see her starting to think about actually going back home, and it's something she hasn't really talked about too much with her husband, I think, if I can remember correctly, but it is a desire of hers. And when her husband is presumed dead, that's kind of a catalyst for her enacting that change that she actually had been desiring for a while. So that's why I don't think it was entirely unrealistic that she did change so much, because I think it was inside of her all along. When I started this book and I read that Emma wasn't a fan of books, I thought this is not possible, because most authors write characters that love books so much, and it's because authors love books, so I don't know why they would write someone who hates books. So I wasn't necessarily expecting Emma to own the bookstore one day, but I think that was a really, really great addition. I love how she just totally owned her last name. She totally just went back to her family. She found love and stability there, and it was a life she truly desired to live. She was done with her traveling and running around. She just wanted something secure, and I think the author wrote it so well that it didn't seem like she was taking a step back. It actually was her taking a step forward, which seemed kind of backwards, because you thought, oh wow, she's traveled, she's giving all that up, she saw the world. I really appreciate, you know, the small town love, and that you don't have to travel all around to have this wonderful, great life. You can have a great life even if you stay in the town that you love and you marry the man who you were best friends with when you were in high school. The great thing about this book is that it takes you honestly over the span of Emma's life. It's not necessarily all about when her husband comes back, which is what I thought the book was going to be about. I love that the book starts in high school and it explores her relationship with Sam, her friendship with Sam, and then how she meets and falls in love with her husband, and then how it goes from there in California. And it just takes you like literally snapshots all throughout Emma's life, which I really, really liked. Like I said before, I honestly was expecting it to all just be about when her husband came back, but I'm glad that I got to see her marriage with her husband, because I really truly loved him. It wasn't something that I read back through it and I thought, oh well, obviously she's gonna choose Sam because her first husband sucked. Like, he truly was a great guy, and I think that if he hadn't gone missing, Emma and him would have had a beautiful life together. I think sure they would have hit some issues along the way, because Emma did want to settle down more than he did, but I think they honestly could have worked through it and they would have been happy together. So I am really glad that Emma ended up with Sam in the end, but I still really loved the relationship between her and her husband. Like, I think both were really well done, but overall Sam was way more Emma. I think a lot of what was great about this love story was that it wasn't necessarily her choosing between two guys. It was Emma deciding who she wanted to be, because she was different people with these two guys. It was almost like Emma was deciding which life she wanted to live, and yes, it was about the person obviously, but it also was about who Emma was, which I think was great, because it wasn't just Emma choosing guys, it was choosing herself. I probably have a lot more thoughts, but honestly, I can't think of any right now. So if you have read this book, please let me know your favorite scene in this book. I'm honestly trying to think of my favorite scene and I can't think of it, so I may put it in the description if it does come to me. But thank you so much for watching and happy reading.